Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's poppin', Fantasy Champs? It's draft week.
Yes, sir.
I love the NFL draft. It is literally my favorite sports event. That's a lie. A generic week one NFL game. Yeah, I'm going to say preseason. Preseason game I'd be more excited to watch than the NFL draft. But this is what we get.
It's the best non-football activity in the football offseason.
Yes. It's wonderful. So we are going to talk all things NFL draft. We'll talk about maybe some rumors. We'll get some rumors in there, talk about some guys that may or may not be floating around, where they're going to land, where they're going to end up. Recap our rankings. Trying to get back to my notes here. Recap our rankings and give you general draft stuffs going into the NFL draft. I believe this show drops Wednesday, and then Thursday we're going to do a rookie mock, so stay tuned for that. I didn't even say our names, but it doesn't matter. You know who we are.
At this point, you probably know who we are.
Yeah. Oh, either that or you're brand new, and you're like, who the hell are these guys? But anyway, before we jump into that, follow us on all social medias. Just type the FF Champs in. You'll find us. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platforms, please leave a review, share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. Click the bell for notifications, like, and comment down below. All right, so let's we'll start with the quarterbacks. Want to start with the quarterbacks?
We can do that, yeah.
All right, any changes from you?
The quarterback position, probably not. I think for fantasy purposes, I think mine's pretty set in stone.
Okay.
I think Young is still the number one guy, although to me it's still very close between Young and Stroud.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like Young's going to be the first overall pick.
Okay.
So, you add that in the equation. I feel like Bryce Young's probably the 101 for me for quarterbacks. Stroud, to me, is still number two. I think he's the clear second best guy. And then Richardson's there at 3 for the upside. Will Levis at 4, and then Hendon Hooker at 5.
Okay. Yeah, I think for quarterbacks, the class pretty much speaks for itself at this point. We talked about, for me, I have Tanner McKee instead of Hendon Hooker at 5, and there is actually some interesting rumor mongering floating around the NFL about Hendon Hooker, and that I saw a report today that said that people believe that he's not going to make it out of the top 20.
Oh boy,
which is not happening. But
I can't wait for a team to take him at the Commanders or something,
and then not have a quarterback in 6 years when he turns 100.
Or he'll just be Geno Smith 2.0.
Yeah. So, nothing really changes here for me. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, Tanner McKee in that order. I think, like we talked about on the ranking show, Bryce and Stroud are definite. I think they're as close to definite hits as you can get. Richardson is a ridiculous, top 3 quarterback ceiling type player. And then Will Levis has some upside, but he's definitely more of a project kind of quarterback. So,
right.
That's the order that we go with. Rick and I agree generally with that. So, that's what our top 4 is going to be. I don't let's talk about this, because there's a report today. We're recording this on Tuesday. Is that a New England thing, by the way? Tuesday,
yeah. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that.
Tuesday. I hear about old people say it.
Yeah, some old people in New England, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, recording this on Tuesday, there was a report today. Somebody posted something on Reddit, and supposedly they're related to Will Levis, and that Will Levis is going to be the first overall pick. Now, let's play Fantasy Island here and say Will Levis gets taken by Carolina with the first pick. Does that change your rankings at all?
I might move him ahead of Richardson if that happened. I would highly consider it, because you would have to. I mean, he would be the first overall pick.
Yeah.
He's going to have a lot of opportunity right away, unless Richardson like imagine it was Levis goes first and then Richardson goes second, and everything is just screwed up.
Oh my God, yeah.
Something like that, then maybe not. I would definitely highly consider it though, for sure. But I do think that report is garbage.
1,000%
Or not
agree.
report,
It's
but
not
like
even a
it's
report.
it's Reddit.
It's just Reddit.
Right.
report.
His betting odds flew up, and
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
this is perfect time.
See, that's where, like, for me, I
Bet
was like,
against
oh,
him.
it's just a stupid Reddit post. But then you see the odds flip.
Yeah.
And
He's
like,
still not the favorite, though. Young is still the favorite.
Young is still the favorite, but Will Levis has now become the favorite to be the number 2 quarterback off the board. Now,
yeah, which is
there was a report. I don't know if we talked about this on our show last week, but there was a report out from Adam Schefter. He said on NFL Live that everyone was talking about, like, oh, there's going to be 3-4 quarterbacks taken in the top 5, and then Adam Schefter was kind of like, no, that's not what's going to happen. That's not true. And he basically threw some water on that fire. And I personally believe that on draft night, Houston's not taking a quarterback. Who's the 3rd pick in the draft? I can't remember. Arizona's not taking a quarterback, obviously. So, and I don't think they're trading out. So Indy's kind of sitting there, and there's been a lot of connection between Indianapolis and Will Levis.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a chance that Levis goes second off the board to Indianapolis if that's how things shake out. But I just don't know.
That.
I could totally see that.
I think that's probably why the betting odds are looking at that, because they're expecting Houston to not take a quarterback now. Because if Houston goes defense, Arizona doesn't trade down. They keep their pick. They're going defense. Like, let's say I think Houston, which again, I don't know what they're doing, but what's the guy's name from Texas? The pass rusher. Is it Texas Tech? It's not Will Anderson. It's the other guy. I think it's like Tyrese something.
Yeah, hold on a second.
You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
I don't know why I'm blanking on his name, but there's rumors that they like him, so I could see a scenario playing out where Bryce goes 1, he goes 2nd, Will Anderson goes 3rd, and then the Colts take Will Levis at 4, and that leaves a guy like Stroud or most likely Richardson falling in the draft.
Okay. Which would be interesting.
Yeah.
So, I'm like, before a month or two ago, I probably would have said that there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks taken in the top 5.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't know that we're going to have that happen.
But that's, to me, to me at least, if I was an NFL GM, I would only have 2 guys that I think are worth top 5 or even top 10 picks at the quarterback position. I don't know if Will Levis and Anthony Richardson are really worth, definitely not top 5, and then debatable about top 10, depending on where your team sits and how you view the guy. But to me, Stroud and Young are the only prospects that feel like legitimately top 5 picks. And the reports earlier in draft season where it was like the top 4 will all be quarterbacks, to me was kind of like overplaying some of the guys. Yeah. But we'll see, because Levis still might be top 5.
All right, let's do the top 4 right now. Predict the landing spot. Bryce Young. Bryce Young.
To me, I will believe it when I see it. I'm going to say CJ Stroud still goes number 2 to Houston. I will believe it when I see it.
Okay, so you say Bryce Young's going to Carolina.
Yep.
Stroud is going to Houston.
Yep. Will Anderson to the Cardinals.
No. I mean, like, we're predicting quarterbacks.
Oh, just quarterbacks.
Just the quarterback. Sorry.
I'll go Levis Colts. And that'll be at pick 4.
Okay. And then
Richardson is the unique one. Where will Richardson go? I think he's the one that falls. I'll say Titans at 11.
Interesting.
Yep.
The Titans take Hendon Hooker. Wouldn't that be
hilarious?
hilarious?
Oh my gosh. There's been reports that they like him.
Yikes, dude. That would be brutal. Okay, so I'm going to say, obviously, Bryce Young, Carolina. I don't think that's changing. I say CJ Stroud will probably end up with Indianapolis.
Okay, I like that spot.
Anthony Richardson will come off next because he was hyped up.
Okay.
I think it'll either be Seattle.
Okay.
Or
that's a good spot for him.
Seattle or the Raiders, and I think the
Okay.
most likely
That's
landing
also a good
spot
spot.
is Seattle. Now's their chance to put a guy behind Geno. How long did they sign Geno for?
3 years, I think.
Okay, yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So I could see them taking Anthony Richardson, and then I think Levis falls,
Yep.
and I think that the Raiders end up taking him. At
Okay.
7. So
still in the top 10 though.
yeah, still in the top 10. If the Raiders do not take him,
I have a hypothetical team for you
okay,
that I think could trade up,
I
make a
think we're
big
thinking about the
splash.
same team.
If a guy falls, the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, that was not what I was thinking. I was gonna say, if the Raiders don't take him, I could see the Bears or the Eagles trading out to a team like the Commanders. But you can add
Commanders
the
for
Vikings
sure.
To
Commanders for sure.
you can add the Vikings.
That could
to
be a
this.
team. Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be interesting. There's a lot of possibilities here. Yeah, I think Richardson or Levis will probably fall. Maybe Stroud, but I don't think Stroud fall. Like if Stroud falls, I don't see him falling further than like 8 or 9.
Okay.
Whatever that Atlanta pick is,
Mhm.
I don't think he goes past there. But yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see where these guys end up.
Yeah. Okay. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Let's talk about some wide receivers.
Yeah.
So for me, I have made a massive move here.
Oh,
So
wow, you did.
My original rankings were JSN, Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, and then Josh Downs. I have switched that to JSN, Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, and then Josh Downs.
Well, guess what? Frick you, because I'm doing the same
You
thing.
know what? Fight me, kid. But I do like. I still really like Quentin Johnston. I think like I've watched him on film, and he is a really good route runner. I've realized that. I watched Quentin Johnston on film more. Really good route runner, does a lot of things well, but like I said, he does have those. He does, like Rick was saying, that he has.
I talked you into it.
He has problems with not body catching necessarily, but he's just not a
I mean, body catching a little bit.
Yeah,
He doesn't high point the ball. He's not like you watch T. Higgins.
Yeah.
He
doesn't use his size. He doesn't use his size. And if he learns how to use his size, now I don't think he can't do it. Like I think he probably could do it. I just think that he doesn't, and he plays like a small receiver. So, like if you're drafting,
he's got a lot of upside.
If you're drafting Quentin Johnston as a receiver to play big and on the outside and like a T. Higgins, then you're going to be like disappointed.
Right.
But if you draft him to be like a larger slot receiver, kind of similar to like a Juju, you can probably get some production out of him. So that's kind of. But Zay Flowers, when you watch him on film, he's getting closer to JSN for me. Like he's glitchy, and I like glitchy.
Yeah.
He tore time-space continuum with his jukes.
I can't let you be higher on Flowers, so I also changed mine. Just swapping Flowers and Quentin Johnston.
Yeah.
I do think there's still a gap between. Like I think JSN's the clear number 1, and then there's a gap between the next couple guys. But to me, Flowers just that it's not just his twitchiness; it's his ability to make guys miss in open space. It's kind of like Kadarius Toney, which might worry you, but if Kadarius Toney stayed healthy, he'd be a great receiver.
Yeah.
He does kind of remind me of someone like that. I think he even arguably has better pure receiver qualities than a guy like Toney. But yeah, his shiftiness, his route running is really good. He's also just a really good receiver too, which I think can get overlooked sometimes when people are scouting him.
Mm-hmm.
There was a play where he, I think, was double covered on a deep ball, and he jumped up and just went and grabbed it, which for a small guy you don't really see that often.
Yeah.
I've seen player comps to like Steve Smith back in the day, Panthers receiver.
Yeah.
Which I think it would be a great comp, and if he ends up being Steve Smith, that's a home run. You're getting a Hall of Fame wide receiver who's on the smaller end, but he's just that dog. But yeah, Quentin Johnston, to me, he's got a lot of ceiling. I still like the player, but as we had talked about before, he still has his flaws. Jordan Addison, I think, is a good receiver, but also has his flaws. And then Josh Downs is just kind of reminds me a little bit of who's the guy that came out, or Jahan Dotson, a little bit, maybe a worse version of him, slightly worse version of him, but similar style player where really crisp route runner and can still be a good NFL receiver. But yeah, we have the same top 5, bro. Has this ever happened?
No.
That's not good, which means we're gonna be totally off.
Yeah, I mean, hey, there's more rankings to come when this is over.
True. They could change post draft.
Okay, so I'm curious to see where Jackson Smith and Jigba goes, because right now he is kind of the consensus number 1 wide receiver off the board. And according to PFF's analysis and trends in terms of his average draft position
in mock drafts,
in mock drafts, 31% of people have him going to the Houston Texans.
Yeah, that's what I've seen the most too.
So he's not in the top 10, but he does get taken at 12. Now, Rick and I were talking about this pre-show. There's a good chance that Jackson Smith and Jigba ends up, like, his determination on whether Houston takes him or not is going to be whether Houston takes a quarterback. If Houston doesn't take a quarterback, there's a good chance that they don't take Jackson Smith and Jigba, and that opens things up. So it could be Green Bay, it could be Tennessee, but it's somewhere that there's 4 picks after the top 10. Yeah. Patriots, Texans, Packers, Titans. And
that doesn't mean they couldn't take him at 12, because I could still see them doing that. I just think the odds maybe go slightly down for that.
But those 4 teams that I just listed, those are the teams that are in on Jackson Smith and Jigba right now. I would be surprised if teams in the top 10 would do that. Like the Eagles aren't drafting a wide receiver. That would be.
I don't think the Falcons would be.
That would be adding way too much to a receiver room that has too many. Chicago, there has been some rumor mongering about him possibly going to Chicago in the top 10. But
I don't think that would be smart either.
Yeah, they're not. They don't need to do that either. They could go with other things. So, I think it's going to be one of those 4 teams that you see: Houston, Green Bay, Tennessee, Patriots. One of those 4 teams is going to take them. And I think for some of these guys, like I'm going to go out on a limb and say JSN and Zay Flowers are the only 2 guys taken in the first round. So I'm not even going to try.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try to.
Holy smokes! Really?
Yeah, I'm not even going to try to predict that these other guys are where they're going to end up.
I will say
in the second round, it starts to flip on its head.
I'll say 3 guys go in the top 20. I still think I'm going to say that the top 4 guys will still go in the first round, but just 2 of them are going to go late.
I got the intel.
Okay, you got your sources.
I got my sources.
Sources say that only 2 receivers in the first round?
Yeah, 2 receivers in the first round.
Wow. Could be wrong. Okay, that would be shocking.
Yeah. I just don't. I don't think anyone else really likes Addison Johnson. Not that they don't like them. I just.
You don't think, like, if he's there to the Bills at like pick 28
no.
or 20 whatever something, the Bills would take Jordan Addison?
No.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. Let's talk about some backers here, because this is the final group we have, ranked at least. Unless you want to talk about Dalton Kincaid possibly going in the top 15. We're good on that. But Darnell Washington, my guy, is that his name? Could be wrong about that.
Yeah, Darnell Washington.
Yeah, he's projected 2nd round pick right now. So,
bro, the tight ends might actually be worth it this year. A little bit.
Yeah. So we'll let you know in 3 years.
Right. Exactly.
So running backs, nothing has really changed all that much for me for the running back position. I still got Behan 1, Jahmyr Gibbs 2, Devin Achane 3, Zach Charbonnet 4, and Kendre Miller 5. There really just hasn't been much movement in terms of these players and news on these players. Right now, if you want to bet on Behan going in the first round and as a first running back off the board, DraftKings Sportsbook has it at negative 10,000. So if you
really to be a first round pick?
Yeah, no, to be the first running back off the board.
Holy cow!
Yeah, and I'm like, I wonder, Jonathan Taylor. I wonder what his his odds were to be the first back off the board because
that is true. Taylor was
because
like
Clyde went at pick 32. Now, Behan's going to be a first round pick. I don't know why people don't think he's not going to be a first round pick.
He will 100% be a first round pick.
But he's definitely going to be the first running back off the board. I would be shocked if Behan's not the first running back off the board. But I think like we talked about before, Akane, Charbonnet, Miller, those three guys, it all is dependent on draft position and landing spot. Like if they end up falling into the 4th or 5th round, there's less of a chance that they end up being really good unless the landing spot is so barren at the running back position that they're just going to force feed their draft selection. So just watch out where they get drafted. Like if they're second round picks, there's definitely a chance for them, especially if they're to a team that doesn't have a running back. So the running backs are always the ones that can change the most. But I have a surprise landing spot for Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he's going to the Patriots.
Oh,
second round.
I like and dislike that at the same time.
Like they desperately want another James White, and last time I checked, they don't have one on the roster. So
right, and he would fit that mold.
Go get Alvin Kamara Mini.
Yeah, I mean he would fit that mold pretty well. Yeah, my rankings haven't changed much. I think a lot of it will probably depend on draft day for some of the later guys. I think my 1-2 will stay the same pretty much no matter what. Behan and Gibbs. But then the other guys like Keandre Miller, Devin Arcane, Sean Tucker, even. Some of these guys are just – it's going to really depend on draft capital and landing spot.
Yep.
I think they're all kind of in the same tier. Like Behan's in his own tier, then Gibbs is in his own tier, and then the next like 4 or 5 guys are all in one tier, which would be tier 3.
Yeah. And
that will all shift depending on draft capital and landing spot. I have a question though. If Behan, let's say Behan somehow falls out of the first round, is not the first running back taken, and he goes in the second round, would he still be your RB1 no matter what?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, same.
That would be a freaking miracle.
Goes to the Pats in the second round.
Miracle, a disaster. Oh, Behan?
Yeah.
I mean, if the Patriots could get Behan Robinson,
I'd feel better about it in the second round.
Oh, 1,000%. I'd be all aboard. But that's about as.
It's not going to happen though. I think he's a first round pick.
Yeah. So it'll be really interesting. The running backs, it's so hard to predict the running back position because there are teams that classically draft the running backs. Like every year, the Patriots draft a running back in the 3rd or 4th round. They drafted 2 last year, and they're both still on the roster right now. So that's why I think the Patriots could maybe not draft a running back.
Uh-huh.
But every year they seem to, in the middle rounds, draft another guy because they know, they know that the running back position is just at this point, there's few really talented guys, and everyone's just kind of in the middle. So it's like you can just roll anyone out there and maybe they'll be good, which is kind of what the 49ers do as well, except they went and got a real running back. But yeah, so I think the 2 guys are Behan and Gibbs, and then literally anything else can happen with any one of these other players. Is there any other draft-related thoughts that you have?
No, I think one thing that maybe I haven't really been focusing on as much is the tight end position. And we're not going to rank tight ends because, tight ends are tight ends. But with this draft, we might see 2, maybe even 3 go in the first round. At least 2. I think Dalton Kincaid?
Yeah.
Kincaid
is projected to be the number 1.
And Michael Mayer, who's also projected to be a late first round pick.
Okay, let's do this right now. Ready? Dalton Kincaid, most drafted, Green Bay, 36%.
Interesting. That's 13th overall.
Yeah.
Wow.
16% to Detroit because they have a vacancy.
Sure, and that's not a bad spot.
No. And then you have Cincinnati with 10%.
That's a great spot too. So
Michael Mayer.
That's what I mean.
Bengals 29%.
Oh
so
boy,
higher for people. Fighting Irish. There you go, Michael Mayer. Cowboys 18% because they just lost what's his name, and then Detroit.
Schultz, yeah, that's true. I didn't even think of the Cowboys. So Cowboys, Bengals, Lions.
There's some good landing spots. I'll tell you.
Those are all good landing spots.
Let's do Luke Musgrave real quick.
Okay.
Third guy. Well, according to PFF, third guy. 28%. So 8% have Miami. But I think what Miami is going to look for is a blocking tight end. So, like, don't get infatuated when you see Miami draft a tight end. But this one has Packers and Lions. And then you have Darnell Washington, my guy.
But that's what I'm saying. So there's going to be like 3 or 4 tight ends that in rookie drafts are probably going to be worth maybe late first round, second round picks.
Darnell Washington, Packers, Lions, Bengals.
Let's say Michael Mayer, whatever, however you pronounce his last name. Mm-hmm. Let's say he goes to the Bengals.
Okay.
Do you want him in the first round of rookie drafts?
Very tempting. I don't think he would fall into the first round, though. I think he would probably be a second round.
You think he's a second rounder?
Yeah. But I would be.
I mean, if your prediction comes true and there's only 2 receivers off the board, there might be 2 or 3 tight ends off the board in the first round.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a heavy defensive first round. To be honest with you,
big boys, yeah.
And
defense,
linemen,
offensive line, yeah.
So anyway, any other thoughts on the draft?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. There you go. A little preview intro with our rankings and a little bit of what we think is going to happen on this show. Thursday, we have a rookie mock. It's our final one pre-draft. I think we do one post-draft with some rankings and stuff like that. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. But Thursday, NFL draft. We'll see you draft day. Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.